Hey everybody, you've already taken the tour of the user interface, so let's just get right down to it. And first thing we want to do is get data. You can get it from all kinds of places, Google Sheets, anything you want, but in this case we're just going to get it from Excel sheet on my desktop in a folder. Demo data North Coast, which will be the same as the one I've given you. You click on sheet 1 and load. And you'll see over here on the right hand side it's loading up. Hit apply changes and there's sheet 1. Let's change its name by double clicking and we'll call it North Coast Demo Data. Oops. One more space than I wanted. There it is. And you'll see over here, you can click on that, shows you all your column headers. Let's just make sure all 149 rows made it in by clicking on the data view over here on the left. And it looks like, yes, 149 rows. I will tell you this data is funky. There's some blanks and just errors around, which is fine. Like, it's a good thing to sort of toy around with in the query editor. But first things first, let's start building a report. The difference between a report and a dashboard is usually kind of static and not interactive or dynamic in the same way a report is going to allow you to allow users to filter the data, etc. So the first thing we want to put on here is a filter, which is actually called a slicer in Power BI because it allows you to slice up the data. So we click on that and here's our slicer. But what do we want to see? In this case, we're going to look at beneficial uses by a handful of North Coast watersheds. So first things first, let's get our Huck 8 name. We'll do a drill down sort of thing from top to bottom. Huck 10 name and Huck 12. So you'll see users can sort of go down, dig deep into the watershed. All right, we'll put that on there. We'll also put another slicer for beneficial uses. So we'll click into the blank space, click on that slicer again, size it up there, and we should have primary beneficial use in our data set. Let's just pull this over to get a bed. There it is. And there it preloads. Now, I told you there's blanks in here where there shouldn't be, so we want to get rid of this blank. In order to do that, you'll see in our filters over here on the right, we have primary beneficial use. So click the down arrow and basic filtering. We will select all and unselect the blank, and there it disappears from our menu. So it's that easy. The other thing I know I'm going to want on this is a map, because it's always nice to know where you are. So right here, map, this will be a Bing map, but we also have access to ArcGIS maps. You can link to your portal map or a map on ArcGIS online. So there's that. But in this case, we're just going to use Bing Maps because I don't want to sign in and do all that. And look how nicely it just sort of dropped right in there. For this, we're going to need data. We'll need our latitude and longitude. So we'll drag that into latitude and longitude into longitude. And there we have it. Here's our handful of different application IDs and their corresponding Latin longs. So the other thing we can do is add in information. So let's add in the application number, and we'll do that in tooltips, and that should jump up in our pop-up. Yep. Oh, no it didn't. We got the sum of the application number, and that is not what I want. Should be a no value option, no calculation. Because I made fictitious application numbers, it wants to do math on them, and this signifies that, the little sigma. So instead of that, we will add the application primary owner, which is also fictitious, so we're not sharing any personal info, and that should pop up in our pop-up. Yep, so down there at the bottom, first application, primary owner, Eli Wallach, if you remember him from the old Westerns. Okay. The next thing we'll do is add a table, and that's right over here. So make sure you've unselected any of these, and you just click in the blank space, and there comes a table. And for this table, I want to know the application number, the primary owner, the water right type, and the smallest huck that it lives in, so we'll put the huck 12 in there, huck 12 name. And you can see how it populates over here. And again, I told you there were blank ones. It's just a weird little fictitious data set. So already we can take action on this by clicking lower eel, and it'll just pop up the stuff that's happening in the lower eel. Unselect by clicking on the box again. We can go middle fork. Again, this is by no means a complete set, and also what the table is doing is trying to add this application number column. Hopefully we can fix that later. I gotta think about that for a second. So before we get any further, let's make this thing look a little prettier. We'll begin by adding a background and some contrast. Clean up these titles a little bit, round some corners, and get things going. So let's add a background to the visualization, the canvas background. I happen to have a bunch of backgrounds saved up in the backgrounds, and we'll just add this nice little water background, and it should have added it. Not sure why it did. Oh, 100% transparency. There we go. And we will fill. I'm actually going to add some transparency because that can be distracting. Nah, I'll leave it. Okay. Let's add some contrast to the boxes, make it a little easier on the eye. Going in to the slicer settings, values, background, color, and a light gray. Oh, that just did it for the values. We'll undo. There it is, general effects. We'll get that light gray background. We'll also add the visual border, which will be black like that, and 10 is usually a good place to have these rounded corners. And it should do that. We'll give some space between these two. There we go. Looks like we've selected something. I don't know what. There we go. So we'll do the same over here. General, background color, gray. Oops. Visual border. I'm going to remove the title from our map because it just busies things up. It should be in general. Just turn it off. There we go. We'll also give it that same background. And visual border, rounded corners to 10. Let's do the same over here. And there we go. That's making me much happier at this point. Continuing with the cleanup, I'm going to change the titles in these slicers. And there we can go here. We have slicer header. And you see it already populated just by what was in there. And we're just going to call it watersheds. And we can change the size and stuff like yeah, let's do that. Let's just go up. That looks a little better. We'll change here just to read unofficial uses. And also take it up to 16. That looks a lot better. Also would like to fix this. We just need to change the format. And I also want to add the yearly, the total expected yearly diversions, which I believe are total expected annual diversion. So we'll add that column and scrunch it over a little bit. Maybe make application number a little smaller, and we can also change the title of that simply by going over here and just saying app ID. No. Yeah, there it is. Okay, good enough. And I want to get, we'll just call this annual diversions. Allows everything to fit a little better, and then we can change our spacing here. Something like that. Good enough. Let's fix this to get them to read as text instead of numbers. So for that, we'll enter the Power Query Editor by hitting Transform Data. You have the Power Query Editor that has a whole new header and set of headers up here, but we're just going to scroll over to the app ID. Here it is. Right click, change type to text. Then we'll hit close and apply. Let's see, something's wrong, fix this. Let's just take that out and replace with app ID. And there it is, right there. And again, I'm going to add a little space here and there. Just fill out the table down here. The other way to get it to stop totaling things is to go over here into the format, totals, and just turn it off. Now we'll add a pie chart. Clicking here and adding regular pie. Let's give it some room in here. I'm going to add another chart. So, wow, didn't mean to do that. There we go. I'll put it right over here. And I want to look at primary beneficial uses and the total of expected annual diversions. So, primary beneficial uses. And total we changed that to annual diversions. And there you have it. I'd like to know a little more about this. It says fire protection. I can probably add that to tooltips. Oh, you know what I want to do is go over here and it'll let me add, it can either just be the category, as you see there, it's changed to fire protection, domestic irrigation, but I also want percentage of total and the data value. I'll just click all detail labels and now we get fire protection. This number is a little unwieldy and we can control that with values, display, I think, here we go, decimal places, 2, and that's a little better looking there. Let's fix it up again by changing the title. Annual version by beneficial uses. And I'm going to center it just to make it prettier. Let's go into the effects, background, make it look like the rest of them, give it that visual border. And drag it down to meet this other one. Actually, we're going to put a title on this, so I'm going to start moving things around a bit more. That seems about right. Let's quickly add a header up here by clicking in our background, adding a text box, and it automatically wants to fit it in there, but we want to take it and move it up here. It doesn't even like us adding it to this space, it's too small. So let's move this down a bit, move this down a bit. we'll just resize everything a little bit. Just cleaning things up. And now we can make this just a little bigger. Hopefully center it. This gets pretty tedious when it gets small like this, and you can zoom in like all other Microsoft products. You can zoom in and sort of do more detailed work. But this is just just a little cleanup. There we go. I'll add text by double clicking in here and saying North Coast data demo. Put it in the center. Make everything bold. See if we can make it bigger. There we go. We should be able to give it that gray background color and the visual border to make everything look the same. There we go. And now we'll add one last chart. We're going to go ahead and add a stacked bar chart. So, problem is we want to show our monthly diversion data, and that's all in columns. We need that to be in rows. So we're going to have to change that data. Let me show you what I'm talking about. We have columns for each month of expected total diversion. So we will select January. Hold down the shift and get December. We will go into transform, unpivot only selected columns. And what that will do is create, for every application ID number, we're going to have 12 different rows for every month. Sounds unwieldy, but it's not bad. So the first thing we have to, let's change this just to acre feet, so we know what we're talking about. And this we will change to month. And it's going to show up really funny. Let's take a look. Let's close and apply, and I'll show you what's going to happen here once we add it to our chart. So we are going to add primary beneficial use as our legend. The values will be our acre feet. And we need the month to get each of the columns going. So there you are, 12 columns. But as you can see, they're in no particular order. Looks from high to low, actually. And they don't say January, February, March, April, May. So back to transforming that data. Open the Power Query Editor. We'll go to our column. will change the top. No, we're going to split the column by the number of characters. The number of characters is 3 because these are all 3 letters, paper, etc. So the first 3 letters all the way on the left-hand side. Press OK, and that's going to split the column, making 2 columns. This one leaving our nice monthly data. This one we can remove. Now it's going to get a little tedious because in order for that to show up January, February, March, etc., it needs to be an actual date. We need that date hierarchy. So we're going to duplicate the column. And we have to go through the tedious effort of replacing these values and entering Jan 1. I'll be back in a minute when I'm done doing that. Okay, you can see I've replaced all the values in this new column so that they all have a 1. Oops. Let's take care of this one. They all have a 1 after them. Oh, seems like I did this in May. Well, there's a number of them I made a mistake on, so we'll just go through this tedious process together. Okay, looks like we all have 1s now. Right click on here and we'll add column from examples. Double click here and you can see it gives all kinds of examples to use. We're going to use January. Actually, no, we need a month. I'm sorry. Oops. Cancel. Add column from examples. Double click and we'll pick the date. Press OK and that will populate it and make that date column. All right, let's close and apply. And we'll replace month. We should have a date column. Here it is. Date hierarchy, and we only want to include the month. And there it is, and it shows up nicely at the bottom. So now we can just do a little cleanup here. Give us our gray background. Our visual border. Turn it on. Number 10. We will distinguish it from the one next door by doing that. Everything's a little scrunched up. And I need to change, let's get rid of the legend. The visual, turn the legend off, there we go. And we will give it the title of Diversion per month. Let's center that. And that's a basic, nice looking report. There's a lot more we could do with this, and there's a lot more I would do with it if I was to continue on. But I think this hopefully gives you a brief demo of how to go about building a report, the types of things you can do with it. I mean, you can forever change colors and sizes, and there's hundreds of charts to choose from, not only these. You've got more visuals from the Microsoft Store. You can use Python and R with this. I mean, it gets pretty deep. But hopefully this gives you a good representation of how to go about just building a basic dashboard. Thanks.